think we are on. Here we are, Saturday morning. Thanks for coming around. We appreciate it. Um, we have it going on right here, the show, right? Every Saturday morning, we talk about collectibles and all kinds of random subjects, topics, and everything. You never know what kind of stuff could end up in our Saturday show. So, coffee in hand. Hopefully, you have yours. Depending on, I guess, what time you're watching it. Some people don't tune in the morning. Some people tune in later. Maybe it's noon. Maybe it's in the afternoon. Could be in the evening or in the very early mornings. As TAB videos did say, he gets up fairly early and starts watching some content out there, and so we do always appreciate that. And I know other people are still watching, maybe not always commenting. My friends over there, Beretta 9mm USA, young Beretta, and Beretta Senior over there, I know they watch the channel a lot. Also, hat tip to them. They have one of the best 1911 channels on YouTube. So also, like, some of the people that, sometimes we don't mention over the years, but always try to remember a lot of these people that have channels that even back when I first started coming up in our little niche community we have here, Real Cobra Burnout, he did some of the coolest videos with the Bud K unraveling or unbagging stuff. He used to do this monthly thing where you'd subscribe to Bud K, and then they'd send you a swag bag, and then you could go through there and everything is supposedly worth an X amount. But anyway, some of those videos were the best. Of course, Lead 8541 over there doing knife stuff every Saturday morning. He does, not every Saturday morning, I've noticed, but he does put out a lot of interesting content on his channel. But he did a really cool video on the case knives and all the different stampings on the tang and the blades and everything. Really cool information. A lot of more information on that than I knew existed. But, hey, it's out there. If you're into this stuff, you know about it. Everything. So anyway, let's go ahead and read some comments here. No particular order. Again, if your comment wasn't read, it could be that you maybe made the comment after production of the show. We do try to get the show produced early, try to get it on tape in the can early on during the week, because the week gets full of all kinds of stuff. Life happens, and especially with things going around my end, a lot of construction going on, and remodeling and things like that, additions and things. So anyhow, here, hey, look up front, Lead 8541 says, I'm down to 2 revolvers. I sold the rest a while ago. Great video. Have a great rest of your weekend. That is from Lead. We appreciate that. Thank you. And you as well. Yeah, I get it. Actually, last week we talked about what I was going to do, and sold off, a great handful. Figured we'd do the last of the, that video, and we got the last remaining ones here that we're going to go over and talk about. All right, and Crazy Scotsman, having hand polished a few revolvers, you are 100% right about edges and markings. Good show as always. You can never watch Dirty Harry too much. Yeah, I personally always like to watch Magnum Force. That's my favorite one. I really think that Magnum Force is the best of the series for sure. All right, Lion Quest Fitness says, I enjoy seeing, let me make sure we have more of this out, because we have a really cool comment here from Lion Quest Fitness, another great channel out there. I enjoy seeing the snub collection, especially the Colt Diamondback. Brings back memories of an evidence gun that was issued to me when I went to work for a small town police department, and they didn't have a Beretta 96 to give me at the time. The gun was a 4-inch Diamondback. It was out of time. Oh boy. Yeah, that did happen to a lot of those old ones. I did get a light hammer strike after the 4th or 5th round. They sent me another department's range officer to qualify me. He was getting over the flu that day, the day I qualified. So he wasn't wanting to linger at the range. We were at a 25-yard line in which he didn't feel like setting up the target. He spied an empty cigarette pack at the backstop and told me to see if I could hit it. After I jumped the pack a few times, he looked at me and shook his head and said, I was qualified. Great story. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that Lion Quest Fitness. I do appreciate that, sharing that here on the Saturday show. That is some awesome stuff. It's so cool. That's awesome. Every time I think of the Colt Diamondback, too, I can't help but think of Brannigan, where the Duke goes over to England, and I just love that. I mean, if the first segment, the first opening sequence of that movie, I said it over and over. If that doesn't make you want a Diamondback, I don't know what will. All right, this one here is from Mike. I like this show format, where you show your guns and tell stories about them, especially Uncle Mo. I appreciate that. Uncle Mo is greatly missed. He always would make my day, man. I have my grandfather's J.C. Higgins pump shotgun. He used to say, when he croaks, put a cone on his head and drive him into the ground. That's funny. Best wishes. All right, we appreciate that. Thank you. All right, and this one's from Jeffrey Richardson. Very nice collection. Thank you very much, DB. Um, Ruger Toklat. I have not heard of that one. That's an interesting one. But then again, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that I have not heard of because I just haven't been in a loop for a long time. GP 100 and Taurus Tracker are only three I've kept in the collection. I love big bore revolvers. Also, a classic Smith & Wesson 38 snub was my grandfather's. Yes, you know what? That's the thing. Classic 38 Smith & Wesson snubs were that was it. I mean, they were so ubiquitous in its day. I think so. Still to this day, I think it's definitely. I don't feel uh, un under gun or whatever with one. I mean, yeah, you don't have the capacity or anything like that, but I feel safe with one. Jeffrey Richardson, another one here. Good morning, sip of coffee. I love revolvers, but because of a hand injury, I'm a rifleman now. I'm sorry to hear about a hand injury, but at least you're still pulling the trigger. Joe P, swig of coffee for Joe. Says, good morning, JW. I'll be sad to see any of those snubbies leave the collection, but I certainly understand changes, priorities, and while my favorite gun in any of your past and present collections will always be the 29-2, and my second favorite will always be the pre-model 10. It's a fantastic revolver from a great movie and a gun you rarely see anywhere else. Yeah, that is true. We will talk about that kind of stuff here momentarily. Warren says, hi, Bad Check. Thank you for the kind opening words and another informative show. Have a great week. I do appreciate that, Warren. That's really kind of you to say. I really appreciate you guys always tuning in, too, and commenting. It means a lot to the channel. It means a lot to me. So everything, all the time we do this show, it really gets some awesome comments here and support that we have. Cap says, great to see guns on the table and hear the stories. Sad to hear that some are leaving the collection, but I get it. Not all guns are keepers. Yeah, mainly for me, they end up getting traded out or sold out because of finances, basically. I got to finance other things that is going on. And I don't like leaving myself strapped for cash. So usually the guns are the watering hole that goes through, and in this case, the hole is almost dried up now. So I'm gonna have to find other means or quit getting into some of these extra projects. In fact, we're trying to do something right now on our own. We're gonna, as during the current moment of the production here, I got a buddy of mine. We're going to get together and see if this method works, and maybe I'm not sure if I'll be able to video any of it or talk about it, but we'll definitely talk about it. But maybe I'll do some video on it. I'm not sure, and insert it maybe at some point. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. All right, this is from Sean. Morning, love seeing the revolvers on the table. Thanks for sharing. What's your favorite all-time snubby? Enjoy the weekend, and I'm off to enjoy some football. Go Hawks. Sean, this episode is for you because we've said what's your favorite all-time snubby? Well, I brought out my favorite one, and I don't see it going away. So, all right. Here we go. This one's from Wright Duckman. Nice snubs. I like the Smith pre-model 10. It's on my short list. I do too. That is a really awesome one. Mike says here, I told my biology teacher that I was not going to dissect the frog. I told him that my sister dissected a frog last year. I've read her notes, so therefore I didn't need to dissect it. I could skin squirrels, rabbits, but not frogs. The teacher said he'd give me an F for the day. I said I didn't care. So he gave me a paper assignment instead. I let it go. No frog. Best wishes from Montana. That's from Mike. Hey, you know what? My friend, she's really into the reptiles and amphibians and stuff like that. And now that I've, kind of learned a little bit about them and everything, we used to have cane toads a lot around the island. I'm on the same boat with you there. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I'm just frogs and stuff like that. I mean, they're so cool, and all the reptiles and things like that. And so I'm not. I couldn't do it. I worked a long time on a pig farm too, and there's just some things about it when you're around animals and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. I guess things change or whatever. But yeah, I'm definitely with you on the no dissecting of the frogs anymore. I couldn't do it. Wouldn't want to. Put them back in the wild and or take care of them if you got like a sanctuary thing going on. All right, this is from LV Bibby. Hopefully, that's just the way the names show up. So I'm hoping not mispronouncing anything on purpose or anything. Good info. Thanks. If you're letting things go, are they going to a certain shop or vendor or already to a specific buyer? I usually always let them go to a shop. I got a friend of mine that has a shop. He carries a lot of old school stuff. He doesn't need the inventory because it's not moving as quick for him. But he certainly does help me out all the time. I keep going to him because he always gives me a really decent price. Better than most anybody's going to give me. He always looks to give me the best he can. I know he's not going to make a whole lot on each buy. And honestly, I'm always like, you know what? If somebody's going to make the money, I'd rather it be my buddy. And, he's got the storefront. So, and, he always cashes me a check. And it's pretty, it's usually a pretty decent check. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate him doing that for me. But yeah, that's usually what I do. Because I like to have the paper trail, to be honest. I don't like the private sales. A lot of these things are, at one time or another, if they were definitely from the island, there is a registration over there. So, I like to have that paper trail just to, CYA on my end too. All right, and then this one is from Doug. Hello, love your videos. I'm a collector, and I just can't see the interest in a snub nose. On that note, I want to talk about this. I get that. I get that because a snubby, honestly, it's terrible at the range. I've never been able to hit the broadside of a barn with one. For me, the interest is films. You always see it. There's something about them when you see them. They're cool to look at. In fact, it's funny you have this comment here because this is an awesome timing. I ran into a fella and we got to talking about J-frames, Smith & Wesson J-frames. If you're not familiar with those are the the smallest frame size that Smith makes. 38 J frame, like what is it, the 36, 37, 642, all those, or 42, whatever. Anyway, he said, yeah, he goes, I've had so many of them, and I get them and I sell them, I get them, I sell them. And I said, yeah, I've done the same. And he goes, yeah, because you get them, they're so cool, and then you go to the range, you pull the trigger, and you're like, what the, And I said, yeah, that's exactly what happens, and that's happened to me so many times, and that's why I've acquired them, and then I get rid of them. I acquire them, I get rid of them, So, but yeah, there is. I totally get that, and again, for me, and that's why I kind of the ones I kept are like the more beefier ones that's somewhat manageable at the range. But I totally get that. I love that comment though. Anyway, I do own a few because they are popular and are in demand for some reason. Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, you got people like me that are like watch too many of the old cop shows, and you gotta have them. 4-inch is my minimum. I've never shot any of my snubbies ever. Yeah, it does. It hurts, and they usually are more difficult to shoot. Anyway, all right. So back to the comment, and the comment was, which is my favorite? Okay, my favorite snubby is, and some people already know, would be the Smith & Wesson Model 10. And this particular one is the pre-Model 10. Why is this my favorite one? Well, I love this thing because it is if you can see that, I'll use the white background of the wall. This is a massive revolver. It's, for a 38 snub, it's got some size to it. I love the way it looks. And really what it is the movie Witness with Harrison Ford. I watched that years and years ago. I had it on videotape. And I watched that movie, and this is what's in the movie. And there's a really awesome scene where, if you haven't seen the movie, he's a police officer, goes out, hides out with the Amish folks. And in the drawer, because they save his life, I think he was shot or something. I haven't seen the movie for a long time. It's in the drawer, his dresser drawer or something. And the little boy comes in, and he opens the drawer and he sees the thing, and you see it up close. Really, there's some really good up close shots of this thing. And he picks it up and he's handling it. And granted that, I mean, when I first saw the scene, a lot of things didn't register in my head, like what it was, what it is, what model is that. So anyway, the thing looks really large. That's because it's up close, and obviously he's a child, and so his hands are smaller. So just that whole combination of that, the up closeness and his smaller hands, the thing just looks like a brute. I mean, it's like, whoa. And then of course Harrison Ford's character catches him and he says, hey, and he gives him a really firm lesson about the dangers of a loaded firearm, or a firearm in general. So runs through and gives him a nice rundown, and then of course the mom sees him and says, oh my gosh, what are you doing, and he says, yeah, you're right, here, take it, put it somewhere where he can't find it. Anyway, so that's the coolness. Ever since I saw that, this has just been like, oh man, I've got to have that thing, that snubby. What is that? So later on, I did some research, and I was like, okay, much later, I was like, oh, it's a Smith & Wesson. So I remember calling up a friend of mine at a shop, and I said, hey, and this was my first ever really a gun buy on my own, figuring out on the island, trying to figure out how to, whatever. So I called. He was the only one I knew. He was a buddy of mine that dealt with firearms. He had an FFL license. I didn't know anything really about purchasing firearms, or didn't like. I mean, you were talking about me. I was kind of late to the game. I didn't really get into it till I was like in my later 20s, like mid 20s. So I was like, hey, so I'm looking for do you have a snub-nose 38 Smith and Wesson that holds 6 rounds, because that's what I remember in the movie, that it held 6. And I remember his response to me, he said, he goes, actually, because that's kind of unusual, because usually they only hold 5. And I said, yeah, I know, but I want 6. And he goes, I think I may have what you're looking for. Give me some time. So a few days later, he calls me up and says, yeah, I think I got what you want. And so I went down to his place to see it. And this is what he had right here. Smith & Wesson Model 10. 10-5 to be exact. The same grips that were on it when I first saw it right here, with the same busted out end right here. And I remember walking up to see him, and he was trying to actually pick, like it was like something lodged in between the panel there right here. He was picking it up and trying to clean it up for me. And he said, here, is this what you want? I said, that is exactly what I want. I didn't really, know a whole lot. But yeah, I said, yeah, I really want that. And so I started that long process and journey that it takes back there to, in that state to acquire it. And because I'm not going to bore you with all that details. Anyway, needless to say, got it, took it home. And you better believe it, I couldn't wait to pop in that movie and watch it and watch the scene. And as I watched the scene, it was don't get me wrong, I was totally thrilled about this. But I noticed it wasn't quite the same thing. I did notice that the one in the film was slightly different. I don't know what it was, and I couldn't figure it out what it was. And then after information, and I read a Smith & Wesson standard catalog that I had, and that's when I realized that what he had in the movie is a pre-Model 10, and that's what this is. It doesn't have the Model 10 designation because it was made before the designation. So I guess you would call it an M&P 38 or something. I believe that's what this would be called. So it has that pencil barrel, the half moon sight, as you call it, in which this does not have that half moon sight, although it does have a slight pencil barrel, but this one has a more pencil barrel. And the contour of the hammer is a little bit different. This is a 5 screw, so it's got one under here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the top, because there's one under the panel, and it's got that most notable one right up here, that big flat one that kind of, I guess, tucks the toe or the top of that in. Maybe that's before they towed them in on the bottom. We're talking about the side plate. So, and it's got a satin finish. It's not a high polish like this one. So obviously, I was like, wow, I don't know how do you get one of those? So anyway, years later, I think I was on, I believe it was on Gunbroker or whatnot. I met some friends that had a hunting shop that ultimately I ended up at and helping out, and then ended up really running the show myself. They had a Gunbroker account. I did not. Some of you go way back with me, you know that whole story. But anyway, yeah, got that on the auction and bid it, and it got shipped to the shop that I worked at. And so during that time, that was really awesome because I was working there, and then the stuff that was coming in, like this kind of thing, that where if I ordered it or whatever, had it shipped over there. That was good fun times. I used to hang out there, wait all day for the mail. Anyway, but hopefully you enjoyed this week's show. A little story on those, and that's my favorite one, and it's still hanging out with me. I can't seem to think that I would sell it. I mean, but of course, you never know. Desperate times, desperate measures. But can't see that I would get rid of these. I have to keep them because they're just they're sentimental to me. This one being the very first one, and then that one kind of tying it in. So I don't really shoot them. Although I will, I wouldn't have any problems with taking them to the range and shooting them. But I don't, it's not something I shoot often. I just enjoy having them. And sometimes that's all it is, you don't necessarily, but it is something that I will shoot. It's not something that's like, oh my God, it's in perfect condition, I'll never shoot it. So anyway.